I mean, I do like that, but I'm not in my library right now, and that's sad making.
Oh, we're now live streaming on YouTube.
Yay!
Hello, YouTube!
Okay. Hello.
Hello,
Yay,
Internet.
technology.
All right, but when I tell you to come back, you better come back. Not putting up your shit, Harvey.
That was our one PG-13.
There it goes.
Over already.
Yes! No, like, that's PG-13, right?
Who had Kit in the pool?
We all had Kit on the pool.
You get one.
What was that? Oh, geez.
That was our one.
That was our one.
That was it. You ruined it.
In the teacher world, we've been learning about enthusiastic embracing of emotion since we're all this big on a screen. And so, yay, we got it. That took 10 seconds.
Sorry.
Not even.
Not sorry.
All right.
We've had a fragrant guest lately, and I was going to put her inside, but she doesn't like that idea, so.
Oh my gosh, skunks are so cute.
Yeah, when they're not spraying your dog, they're great.
Or spraying you.
There
I
we
can't
go.
have you here. I gotta get you out of here. Go hang out with your sister.
All right, so 3 minutes till we're live.
Place I used to live, they were great college student repellent. They used to grub in our front yard, and then like the college students would try to cut through, and they see the skunk and run. So it was great.
Lay down.
The only forbidden cats we have in the city are opossums.
Relax.
By the way, Ryu, the
And
terminology you call the cats, trash goblins, the two that I have are totally trash goblins. No matter what trash can, they end up inside the trash can.
I found one of my cats in a trash can filled with bugs. Like he had 4 different types of bugs that we had to get rid of him.
Trash goblins. So every time we call them trash goblins, I think about you.
He grew up to be an excellent mouser though. Like he comes and sometimes he brings me whole on like dead rats, and I'm like, dude, no.
That's what you say. Thank you. Don't do this no more.
Yeah,
All right,
you're not
folks,
eating
we're
enough.
live.
Rat.
We are live.
We're live. Oh, he's got the axe.
Looks like Kit muted her screen.
Your cat broke in, by the way.
No, I went and let her in. I got sick of listening to her.
That's all right. Mine is underneath my desk here, trying to get
All
up.
right, so I'm gonna be muting everyone so we can get this show on the road. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to the Order of the Tigers Combatants. Ask Us Anything show that we have started as a way of reaching out to the community with different questions and concerns folks have had over the years and wanted to ask us. And since most of us right now are stuck at home, figure this is a good way to reach out. And Olaf already has an axe out. It is a party. So starting out, first things we're going to go through a little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to go through an introduction of the people we have here with us. So first things first, what is the Order of the Tigers Combattant? The Order of the Tigers Combattant is one of the 7 East Kingdom Orders of High Merit, usually abbreviated to the OTC. It is given for prowess on the rattan combat field, different from the steel that is starting out. And it is given out for either excellence in one form or surpassing competence in several. It was established October 9th in Annus Societatis 11 by, I am going to mess up this name, Langhair and Yesbu II. Currently, at the last count, the order has 424 members and was made a grant level award in recent years with the induction of the silver awards within the East Kingdom. So going now, we are going to introduce our panelists. Starting out, can we with Culann? So if you unmute yourself and then speak.
Viscount Sir Culann McKinnon. Lived in the East pretty much my entire life, except for a couple of years when I was in Oertha in the West. Got my OTC in 2005.
Thank you. And Master Tiberius.
I'm Tiberius Iulius Rufus Primus. I've been an authorized fighter in the East Kingdom on the rattan field, on the armored field since 2006, and I'm an authorized fencer as well. And my OTC was awarded 3 years ago this GNU that didn't happen.
Thank you. And since he asked it, Uncle Olaf. Go ahead.
Yay. Okay, sorry. It took me a second to get unmuted there. Hello, I am Uncle Olaf. Been fighting. I'm East Kingdom my entire life. Been fighting since 97-ish, I think. Got my OTC in, I have no idea. Number of years back. Anyway.
2015.
Look at you, wicked smart. 2015.
There we go.
From Edward.
Thank you. Ryu? Whoop. There you go.
Everyone, I'm Ryouko'Jin of Iron Skies. I'm born and raised in the Crown Province of Ostgard. I've been fighting for just about a decade. I got my OTC in 2014 under Brennan and Culann I. I was awarded for primarily great weapons as my melee form.
Thank you. Sir Sterling.
Hey guys, I'm Sir Sterling. I've been here in East 26 years. Got my OTC 2010 by now Duke Conrad von Ulm. Yeah, that's what I do. I go out there in the field and fight. That's what we all here for.
Thank you. Gryffyn.
Hi, I'm Gryffyn Dunham. First got authorized back in the dark ages of '93. Fought intermittently, but actually picked up around 2002, where I started taking it seriously when I moved to Bergenthal in Western Mass. Played around pretty seriously for a while there, and got my OTC in about 2014 under Kenrick Kenrick II, and have been kind of intermittently playing for about the last 4 years after my second kid was born.
Thank you. Our other Tiberius.
Hi, Tiberius Nautius Maximus, otherwise known as the tall one, not the pretty one, like our good friend Tiberius Iulius Rufus. I've been in the East, most of my life. Started fighting in college in 2003 when I went to SUNY Potsdam and started up in the Great Frozen North with Uncle Olaf. Got my OTC in 2015 under Edward and Thera. I believe he was third and she was second at the time. Citizen of the East, I moved out for love and decided I still wanted to fight with everyone, all my friends. Became a citizen of the East shortly after I moved out in 2016. And just been the Roman ever since.
Thank you. Trentus.
Trentus the Nubian. I've been dabbling since 1998. I started playing seriously in 2014. I received my OTC 3 years later, 2017. And primary form is greatsword or polearm, and scouting.
Thank you. Brick James Beech.
Hey, I'm Brick. I have been fighting, Monthal would have been 7 years, so I'm squire to Sir Culann here. I got my OTC in 2018 at Burka from Ivan and Matilde.
And current Queen's champion. Matthew MacGuyver. Matthew, are you still with us or are you frozen?
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Whoop. We did. Think your connection might be poor there, bud.
Okay. I'm having the best internet out here.
Okay.
Been fighting for 9 years. I have my OTC a year and a half ago from William in Vienna.
Nice. Kit? Whoop.
Am I unmuted?
There you go.
Okay. I am Catherine Dupree of Coldwood, known as Kit. I got my OTC in January of 2019. I've been fighting since 2011. I don't know, what else is there? That's pretty much it.
Favorite form, where you prefer to be?
Oh, sword and board. I like being in the front or the reserve. I am really melee focused, although I am learning to appreciate singles for other reasons.
Fair enough. Thank you. And Juliana.
I'm Juliana de Essex. I started fighting about 15 years ago, but only really truly started fighting maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I got my OTC. I just hit my 1 year anniversary for Cianain, and I got it for doing spear.
You are terrifying with a spear.
Thank you.
And last but not least, there's me. I'm Thorin Ulfson. I live up in the wonderful north of Tirmara. I received my OTC in October of 2018 from Wilhelm in Vienna, and I like to fight. Any weapons form, preferably either 2-weapon or polearm. And that is our panel for the evening. So the way we're going to go is there's some questions that have been submitted, and what I'll do is I'll ask the question and offer who would like to answer. There's some of them that might be a bit more directed that I'll probably direct, but we will go from there. First question we've got from the populace is, how's everyone doing tonight? And whoever wants to thumbs up all around is good. Drinks in hand. Always a good time. Thank everyone for joining us tonight. And all right,
Wishing I was here.
Yes, so many of us are wishing we were at Pennsic right now, or on the way to Pennsic. But this gives us a whole time to fix those things we've been needing to fix, do some training, and make sure we're better and sharper for next year. All right, so that question's going to come later. So first question I wanted to bring up to everyone is one of the first ones that was actually submitted, is how do you balance your time between striving to increase your prowess to be Shiv level and also help raise those below you? Ryu?
So I find that those two things are often synonymous. When you are striving to improve your game, there's only so much you can do to grind yourself and hone your skills against people who are above your skill level. And it's very easy when you just keep going to a practice where you're generally outmatched to just kind of get discouraged in that fact. I found it was easy to go to a practice where I had someone who was mentoring me, and I would acquire new skills. And then I would go to another practice where I had generally a group of novices that I could train and teach and bring up. And one of the things that happens when you do this is when you watch the people that you teach, they do everything wrong that you do, just loudly. And so they start pointing out all of the holes in your game, whether it be in melee or singles. They do everything wrong that you do. And then you look at that and you're like, oh man, this is what I taught you to do. That's what I'm doing. And you can learn a lot about yourself by the quality of the people that you're teaching.
Thank you for that. Gryffyn?
So to add to that, because that's fantastically good point. My profession is I'm a teacher. If you can't explain a thing, you really don't know the thing. And a lot of times, the person who's still learning it may not understand it the way that you do. So it isn't even just being able to explain it, but it's being able to have more than one way to explain what you're doing. And what that'll do for personal prowess is very often click something for you as you're trying to search for that new terminology. As far as the striving, I'm on the long, slow path, by the way. I'm more striving for excellence, period. That's it. And if that striving leads to chivalry, wonderful. I'm honored and proud. But the goal in my case is improving the dance, improving the game. And that means helping others because that helps me as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Culann? Oh, and then Kit.
So when I was on the path up on the way from OTC to chivalry, I just really fought everyone. I went out, we're really missing it this year, but we were out at Penzic, down on the pickup field, picking fights with, anybody who'd show up. Knights from all sorts of kingdoms, unbelts from other kingdoms. And Penzic on its own is really magical, but on the pickup field, you can pick up stuff, that, unbelts from other kingdoms, will find something and exploit it on you that you don't even know. Like you can be fighting upper level dukes in your own kingdom who don't know it, but some guy from another kingdom is going to see something that you don't know. So it's got a really good exchange of ideas going on there. And that's a lot of, on my path, that was a lot of what I did. And, as my part, I try to encourage, my guys to do is pickups with as many people, learn everything you can. Maybe something's going to stick. Maybe it's not going to stick. Maybe it's something that you can pass on to someone else that you see as having a similar problem. Knowledge is power. Keep it, use it, teach it.
All very good points. Thank you. Kit, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I don't think I'm muted. Is that true?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, obviously teach people. Anything you teach anybody is going to improve what you're doing. But I think it goes beyond to be the person that's pulling everybody together to go to the event, put everybody in the car, get them there. Schedule a melee practice, create one. Like if you want to know specifically what to do, specifically that. Be the carpool person, be the practice organizer, be the one pushing people, because you can drag yourself up, but if you're not dragging anybody else up with you, then what's the point?
That's a really good point, and something that's always good, especially when you're living somewhere isolated. Those carpools are going to save you, because if you want to go to an event, there's probably 3 or 4 other people in your area that want to go. Put all of you in a car or in a van or something that can fit Kit and people and go, because you can only learn so much from your local practices, right?
Yeah, it's great when you've got a practice, 4 practices a week within half an hour to 45 minutes from you. But when your closest practice is 2 hours away, besides your own practice, then being that person, if you want your area to grow, if you want people to grow, if you actually care about other people, then you need to be more than the guy that shows up at practice and shows people a couple shots. You got to be the leader.
Yeah, very true. All right, our next question. So how do you judge who meets the bar of OTC after you've already exceeded that bar? Who'd want to take lead on this one? Trentus?
Um,
And then Sterling.
it's not about the can this person beat me? It's, I mean, realistically, OTC isn't Shiv. So it's competency, surpassing competency or mastery of one form. That's very clear to see. Well, for me, in my forms, it's a little harder for me to tell in a sword and shield since I rarely do that. But if I'm going out, I'm very melee focused. If I'm going out on a flank and I know that person in front of me is going to give me trouble, then he's someone I'm going to consider. If it's someone I can know I could just run through and keep going, then afterwards I'll tell him why I was able to run through him.
Makes sense, yeah. Sterling?
So following up on that, as far as running through and so forth and showing competency, it's not, for me personally, it's about how you are carrying yourself with your prime form. If you were walking out there with the prime form and going, yeah, I'm the greatest, and then you're not putting forth that I'm the greatest on the field and carrying yourself that way, I'm going to look at you like, well, wait a minute, how is it you're the greatest and you're not showing that effort of being the greatest? Sure, if you're going to beat me, great. But how did you beat me? Did you beat me with confidence in that weapon form? Or did you, oh, look, Sterling missed a block and now I'm dead? Beat me with the confidence, show the confidence that you're doing within that weapon form that you're doing.
Anyone want to add to that? Tiberius, you haven't spoken yet. Go ahead.
I think that the question itself poses an interesting presupposition in that there is a bar. And so there is no defined bar as to what makes an order of the Tigers Combattant valid, except what it says in the actual law that created it. And so if you ask all of us what our personal bar to see if someone is ready is, it will be a different answer from each of us. And so that's where the polling comes in, and we talk to each other and we explain why we think what we think. And then we figure out who's going to give the person some feedback, coaching, and help them take the next steps if they need it.
Rick?
So I agree with that completely. It's entirely subjective at the end of the day. We only have the description of, excellence in one form or surpassing competence in multiple, and that's different for everyone. And I think that as you get better at fighting, it can be a little bit more difficult to not let that bar for those criteria to creep up. And Reinhardt actually gave me a piece of advice. I think it was Penzic last year. And it was, we were talking about a candidate just off on the side, the two of us. And he said, you need to take a snapshot of where you were at when you got your OTC and think of that at the very least as kind of a baseline for how you're judging people. Because as you get better, and I'm sure the Shiv in here might be able to speak to this a little bit better, but as you get better and better, it's really hard to not judge people. But even if it's subconsciously, to continue to let that bar creep higher and higher.
Okay. Or Olaf, sorry.
So, what he was saying is like, there's not actually, there's not a bar, and combining that with taking a snapshot. One of the things that gets tossed around in discussion a lot is, killers. It's like, is this person a killer? And, you kind of learn to look at that. Like, okay, can they go out there and smoke everybody on the field every day? No. But are they reliably, solidly a killer? And I mean, like, y'all know me. I'm not a tournament guy. I'm going to cop to that. I'm a melee guy. It's where I live. It's where I love. And, if I'm looking across and going like, they asked me to put together a team to do a job. And if I'm going like that person, if those people I'm picking to be reliable, solid killers are not on the radar, I mean, it's our job as, you know, as OTCs to put them on the radar. You know, if they're not an OTC already, why not? Because there might legitimately be a reason. Then we help them fix it. So, you know, our job isn't just, you know, determining what the bar is and does this person meet the bar. It's determining what the bar is for that person, and then how do you help that person clear the bar. So subjective, but yeah. They got tangential there, but anyway.
No, tangents are good. Like, this is the reason why we're doing this, to give the perspectives, because there's been a lot of questions, like even since I've become an OTC, of where's the bar, what do I do, how do I get there? And even when I was trying to get my OTC, I'd ask 6 different people and get 6 different answers. So it's kind of hard to know where that bar is or where that expectation is if you're getting multiple perspectives from that. Ryu, then Culann. You're unmuted, Ryu.
Perfect, thanks. So I'm gonna echo Olaf's point as well as Tiberius's point, and I'm gonna take a pivot on both of them. When I was inducted into the order, the next 3 pollings that anyone came out with, I had voted no on everyone, and I sat down with the king at the time, and I talked to him about it, and he said to me, you know, like, he was like, I was talking, I was like, why did you vote no on these people? I'm like, because it's just in confidence. And I'm like, well, because I can take them consistently in every one of my off forms, even against their primary. And he says to me, he goes, okay, but are you the bar? And I thought I was like, well, I kind of felt like I was, because I was the opening OTC at that time. I was the most recent one that was made. And that got me thinking about, well, what qualifies as prowess, and how do we define prowess? Which is to talk to Olaf's point. And prowess, we very often see as us just winning, right? Like, we're like, oh, well, winning is prowess. But when you break prowess down, prowess is assertion of will. When you are fighting against another individual, you are putting your will against their will. And one of you is going to win that fight. You're going to have the katas, you're going to have the skill, you're going to have the technique, you're going to come out ahead. But when you are an individual who has built a form of prowess, you know when another is weighing against you. And so even if you come up against someone and you stand victorious, you can look at that person and be like, this person has prowess. And prowess is the qualifier.
Culann, did you want to add to that before we went to the next question?
Ryu touched on a lot of what I was going to say, but I did want to add a lot of what an upcoming individual who is looking to become an OTC. One of the best things you can do is travel the kingdom and fight everyone in the kingdom. A lot of times when you're looking at a polling, you can look at a name and not know who they are, and they could be great, but if all they ever do is, if all they ever do is at the far end of the Southern Kingdom, and and you got guys in the Northern Shores regions who are voting on this, it's hard for them to say, yeah, this guy's one of us, or this person is part of this order. And I think that's, even more so than beating people, to read it what Ryu said, it's get out there, get fight everyone in your kingdom, get known, make word fame.
Yeah, those are all really good points. Next question we have. So this comes from Timbrian. How can I better observe why great fighters make the choices they do when I'm watching from the sidelines? Often I feel I miss what really happens when I am watching a great fight, and I wish to be able to pick apart the action better when I'm not in the fight. If that makes sense. Tiberius and then Culann.
So one of the things I think that is incumbent upon us and the knights above us, and those of us that are not knights, are to help fighters learn to watch and speak about a fight. Too often we posture and we move and we place and we maneuver, and then the fight itself, the actual tiny piece of the violence, is small, but the fight was that entire experience. And we don't spend enough time teaching those we're training and those around us how to actually watch, dissect, analyze, and observe a good fight. So it's hard to then break down the fight, repiece it back together, and assemble its component parts. So analysis is difficult for many fighters, and we have to be better.
So with that in mind, during the joy that is COVID land, is that what is something we should do in the future, is do another video call like this, but pick some fights and show how we would pick it apart?
Yeah, and there's a great YouTube guy, and I wish I could remember his name right now, but it's gone. And
Avery?
Yeah, he breaks the fight down, does little arrows, takes a look at
Avery from Montier.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But it's that kind of thing that Sir Gareth, my knight, is spectacularly cogent and purposeful about. Like, I remember first standing on a list field with him on the sidelines, watching fights, and him teaching me to watch and teaching me to speak of fighting before I could even improve my own, just to know what I was looking at. I didn't have the vocabulary for it.
Okay. Culann and then Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to break down from a sideline if you don't know what you're looking at. And one of the best tools, we happen to live in an age where video of fights is readily accessible to pretty much everyone. Find a group of people, find someone, who's more experienced than you, and help you break down videos. I mean, slow motion video work is, you get to see a lot of the nuances that people, actually throw in their fights. As far as stuff getting in their heads, sometimes they do things that you don't even know why they're doing. They don't even know why they're doing it. They're like, you can ask them later about it, and they're like, I blinked and, blocked. I got lucky. But yeah, video analysis is a really great way to start, especially if you can get a group of people together and watch the same video and discuss what's going on, get feedback from your peers, get feedback from, anybody really, anybody who's taking a look at the video.
Okay. Sterling, you want to have a point, and then Gryffyn?
Sure. Just to follow up, I mean, the one word we have there, practice it. I tell my guys to pick a video, watch it 3 times, and I ask them to give me a breakdown on the fight itself, and then a breakdown on each of the fighters who are competing, whether it's whether you're focusing on their defense or whether you're focusing on their offense. This gives my guys a chance to look at a fight and go, okay, well, he's fighting funny foot and he's throwing this shot. And then that builds dialect with me saying, why is he taking that kind of a shot? But it also gives me a chance to go look at what they're looking at and possibly view it from their point of view as well. Because even though you are going to see it one way, another fighter is going to see something completely different, a different way. And you're looking at the same exact fight. So practice it. Like Colin just said, you grab the video, play the video. Okay, you can't get with people, but you know what? We've got technology. Play the video, everybody sharing, watching the same video, and talk about it. So practice it.
Perfect. Thank you. Gryffyn, you wanted to add one more thing?
Yeah, I got really lucky that my grand knight, Jeffrey Fitzgalen, is a body mechanics guy. He also is a talker like I am. And having someone who's more experienced that can stand next to you and is willing to talk about what they see helps you with what you're going to see. If you can be looking at a video together and you look and you might get them to say, this is what I see. Do you see it? And until you start to see what they're looking at, we have a hard time looking at those kinds of things. So just saying, what do you see? Watch it 20 times has its limits as well. We don't always know what to see. And sometimes having that buddy that's willing to talk about what they're seeing is as big or even a bigger deal. Watch football analysis by the former players and they will give you play-by-play breakdown with the arrows. That's great. And then you can start seeing it yourself without the breakdown, the more of that analysis you participate in and watch and ask questions about, of course.
Awesome. Lots of good information there for folks. Hopefully that helped. So next question I would like to post is, so from a fitness standpoint, when we're fighting and when we're training to fight, what non-fighting training do you guys do? What drills do you do to stay sharp, whether it be Pell or other things? Juliana?
So just a little background on my mundane life. I'm actually a personal trainer. So I work with people, I work with competitive gymnasts who are quite high up in level, all the way up to my oldest has been 98. So I work with everybody. So what I do for myself is for cardio, I do interval training. So I don't just run. I may do 30 seconds, walking 30 seconds, running. Sometimes I'll add sprinting. Sometimes even throw elliptical in there. You always do want to change up your cardio. They're always saying change up your fitness, but this is the same for cardio and strength training. So the other thing I do is I do strength training. So I do try to lift, but I also do a lot of fast twitch motions, slamming a ball, kettlebell swings, anything like that. But then also add in some Pell work. So we have a little gym over on the side and we actually use a martial arts dummy. So I'll do a full body workout, but also add in Pell work. The other thing you do want to focus on is not just your good side, but also your bad side, because that's when you guys are going to also start creating injuries. So you're going to overuse injuries on your good side, but then you're going to create muscle imbalances on the other side. So that's when you have stuff like even throwing your back out, stuff like that. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me on Facebook and I can give you some other information.
So on that, with working training in and working good, like your on-site, off-site, that kind of thing, something I was taught and I teach to my people is to slow down when they're throwing, because a lot of folks start on a Pell and they just try to swing for the fences and they don't learn.
That is a really good point, because you do want to do, it's muscle memory. So go really, really slow for maybe even a few weeks and then start ramping it up a little bit more when you start getting an idea of how it's going to work. So you're also not blowing out your muscles too.
Yeah, learn the kinetic chain of a shot. No, don't just try to power through it.
Exactly.
Ryu, you had your hand up.
Yeah. So I'm going to agree with everything that Juliana said about complex muscle motions. I stand by kettlebell and sledgehammer work forever. And specifically when using the sledgehammer, not even the swing, but the slow motions. Like if you have a sledgehammer, you have access to one, and if you're a pole arm guy and you do your motions casting out slowly and controlled, don't swing, and I'm not even like beating a tire or anything like that. I'm doing all of my pole arm katas with my sledgehammer with an object that is roughly 4 times the weight of my pole arm, but I'm doing it controlled, so that way when I have to be in the melee field, I can do it all of my swings without having to worry about, pulling a muscle in my back or anything like that. I also do treadmill work when I do my Pell work. So I have my Pell set up next to my treadmill for the sake of melee, and when I run on my treadmill, I'm throwing my shots so that I can do that ramp, especially for things like when we do the unbelts, things like that, where it's like I need to be able to go loaded for bear and leave nothing for the swim back, and I only need 45 seconds. So a dead sprint while throwing Pell work. That's definitely something I do. And you know, like get video of yourself. Like when we're talking about the analytical, you know, like what we do as part of our training, like what Tiberius was saying, like learn to study this thing. Get someone you trust to video you when you were at practice, any practice, and then give it to somebody who you know knows how to break down a fight and be like, what do you see?
That's always helpful, especially if you can get video of you and others so you can train. And honestly, if you're not sure who to ask, look at the people that are in this call. There are folks all over the place that are more than willing to help you. And if we can't, we will find someone who will. I'm not that good of a spear guy. I'm going to send you to Juliana. I am definitely not that good of a sword and shield guy. I'm going to send you to Tiberius, Brick, Kit, and Matthew. But we want to help. We want to help train and get the next generation going.
Also, rucking helps. Get yourself like a comfortable backpack that you could put weight in and just walk. Because you slow down a lot when you're in your armor. Your kit may be anywhere from 30 to 70 pounds based on your size. You know, like learning how to move with that extra encumbrance in a way that's natural to you really helps a lot.
Yes. Olaf? Whoop, hang on. You're not mute. You're muted, bud.
You know, all the Zoom calls I had to do for, you know, the kids' schooling for the last few months, you'd think I'd have gotten better at that. Touching on a couple things that, you know, just Ryo mentioned rucking, like whenever possible, put yourself in your kit and wear your kit. Nothing in the world trains you for being in your armor like being in your armor. When I ran Winter War here in Outpost, I would literally do a 12-hour day in my armor. I would get dressed in the morning in my gear, go set up the event. I would fight the event. I would break down the event. Then I would go home and armor down. I would spend 12 hours in my armor. No problem. Because I was used to wearing it. You know, just put it on to clean your house. Put it on to go for a run. Put it on to do some Pell work. It's going to give you practice doing two things. Number one, wearing it. Number two, putting it on. Because how many times you've been late for a battle and went, oh shit. And, you know, that's an important skill. As for training, for me, there were two really big things. I took a couple years off from the SCA, got burnt out. I took a couple years off and I played semi-pro football. Agility drills. Football agility drills do wonders for your footwork and do wonders for your ability to apply power when and where it is needed. You know, you're backpedaling, you're running away, you need to change direction and throw a shot at the same time. There's a drill for that. So you take those football agility drills, you know, wave drills, whatever, and then you put a weapon in your hand and then you do them. And then you can do them in pairs. You can do them, you know, backing up, going forward with somebody, mirroring you, shadowing you, throwing shots while you do it. The agility drills from that translated into you know, SCA fighting wonderfully. And for me, I mean, especially for me with the axe, the first year I made unbelts, one of the biggest things I did to train for going out and fighting the fight, I broke rock. I took a sledgehammer and I broke rock. And it's not just about throwing power, it's about throwing precise power at precise angles at a precise spot. So break rock with a hammer, chop wood. You know, these are things that our personas would have been doing just in a matter of course. This was how they lived. That's how they trained, you know? Splitting and chopping wood is about precise angles in a precise spot. This game is physics and geometry. That's you know, that's what you train for.
Oh, the math problems and the physics experiments you can do with SCA combat. Trentus?
Like Olaf, I actually played semi-pro football. I was a cornerback. So basically it was a lot of, like you said, the drills. But honestly, and this may sound weird, I did a lot of dance And that was not only cardio, but it's footwork as well. That combined with a couple of people who suggested that, like, to get out of my own head, to actually have a song in my head, it's a thing now for me. It's basically like when I get into a fight, my first thought is, let's dance. It makes me not be static. It my energy levels increased, and as I'm stepping, I still have my balance and my power, so I can throw a shot wherever I want. But like, I mean, you don't really think about it. You could wind up dancing for 45 minutes straight, and that's actually a workout, but it's something that you're enjoying while you're doing. And you'd be amazed at like how quickly your feet can get out of the way, or you can change your position so that you're generating power on your offside because you were dancing.
So many things are cross-compatible. All right, so our next question coming from Jonathan Bales. How should the OTC divide up fighters who have really good performance based on athletic qualities like speed or power versus fighters who have made an obvious effort to learn technique, or should there be a divide at all? It's a bit of a interesting question. Colin?
I mean, I think we talked about it earlier. I mean, yeah, everyone gets in here for a different reason. There shouldn't be a divide, Yeah, that's why the order says, excellence in one form or surpassing competency in multiple. Everyone's bringing something different to the table. To divide it by speed or,
Yeah. Tiberius?
Sterling first and then me.
Right. Sterling, then Tiberius.
I was just going to agree with Colin said. I mean, when you asked that question, if you watch most of the panel's heads went no. So yeah, I'm with Colin on that one.
So I think that I wonder if the question is asking us about how people progress and do we differentiate among those who progress differently? Like some people, I mean, I know in my experience, one of my Squire brothers is one of the most naturally talented athletic fighters I've ever seen. He can just pick up a weapon and perform with it. And from the get-go, right from our first practices together, he was miles ahead. And so he never really needed to learn technique early on because he already had stuff. He was effective without perhaps proper technique. And Duke Paul talks about him being, Duke Paul himself was too strong for technique for a long time. And he got to a place where he needed to learn technique later on in his career. Unlike many of you, I have no natural athletic talent at all. Any scrap of progress I've made has been through analysis, practice, and focus. I don't have any natural athleticism. I can pick up something and draw. I can paint. I can make things out of clay. That seems I have more inborn talent that way. But I think when it comes to the order, if there is a bar for each of us, and if there is a metric, at least even a personal one of what competence or what excellence looks like, one can't get there solely on one path or the other. It's about embracing one's path, improving, incorporating those lessons one needs to learn, and then becoming a true tiger rather than depending on other things. That's how I might read that question.
I mean, simply put, to me, it's, what do you do with what you have? Someone could be a small person. What are they doing with that? If someone could be a giant, what are they doing with that? So it's not separate.
Kit and then Gryffyn.
There. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. You can't quite see me because I'm by a fire, and I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're all jealous of you right now.
So there's going to be a divide between people who are naturally athletic and those who aren't. And I definitely am not. And I spend a lot of extra time at the gym. And I am not going to be as strong as any random man, basically. And that's just too bad. So then I need to go to the gym more. So just go to the gym more. Make up for it. Find a way. Because if you want it, you'll do it. And if you don't, you won't. And it's not fair, but not much is. And it's might be a rough way to look at it, but it's true. So I've always been a big fan of the truth. That's it. Yeah. Do what you have to do about it.
Matthew, do you want to speak to this with being a smaller frame guy as well? If his internet will let us.
Absolutely. Between the intellectual fighters and the talent, I'm a foul. And when I get to the point that I'm trying to be at, I'll do my thing. But there are fighters who will find a point that is much more effective. So they can take maybe less skill and apply it in a point that is going to do more than what I can. So definitely natural talent without so far. And obviously you can understand this so well, but if you can't make your muscles do the thing, you need to combine that into being what we see as a, so I don't think we can really look at it separately because
Whoop. We lost you again.
you need to be able to take your thing and get to the point where you're a killer.
Thank you. Gryffyn?
So if you want to look at it as a division based on the original question, those who already may have strength or speed as part of their just natural makeup, the 6 foot, oh my God, mamma jamma that's just bigger than the rest of us. It happens. But that person needs to focus on technique to be able to lay the stick where they want, when they want, at the right time, in the right way. Needs to still have technique to be able to do situational awareness, etc. I'm about an average to, well, for SCA fighters, probably smaller size guy. And I had to learn technique. And the funny thing is, some of the lessons were the same, but what strength I did gain came from learning technique. So weirdly, not having technique, you need to learn technique. Excuse me, not having talent and skill that's natural. Technique will get you there. Having natural talent and skill, the technique will get you there. It turns out that in my mind, the separation is just where you're coming from to meet in the middle anyway.
I think it comes back to when we were talking earlier about prowess and the brute that's going to just power through everyone's shield and everyone's weapons, and they're going to get the kills because they're literally knocking stuff out of the way, versus the guy that's placing the shot exactly where they want to, how they want to, and being able to hit 3 or 4 other ones might get you a bit farther than doing the brute strength aspect. Okay. All right. So next question we've got here. This is going to be a fun one. So what do you recommend for fighters that have a harder time traveling to events for exposure? Best way to maximize exposure at events they do get to. Who wants to start with this one? Sterling, and then Brick.
You can't travel. You show up to the events that you can show up to. Be on that field. You see somebody that you haven't fought or don't get to cross swords with, sitting down, having a drink of water, chit-chatting, go over to that person and say, hey, you up for a pickup? Be out there. Make as much use of time that you can on that field that we have. When we go to an event, on a Saturday event, we have generally from 10 to 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish. In a wide scope, it's not really a lot of time to do pickups, but if you're out there and you're actually communicating with somebody, that you're making an effort to make yourself better. Just in simple conversation gives you a little bit of knowledge to take back home. Leave an impression.
Yeah, exactly. Brick, and then Ryu.
Yeah, so I agree with that. And the phrase that I always hear is, first on the field, last off. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to travel a lot. And in my mind, those are always the people that I remember most, the ones that are out there the earliest and that are fighting for the longest. And I think this isn't directly fighting related, but I think that one of the other ways to kind of get noticed and known in the community is taking an approach much like Thorin has, where he's just a very positive, constant online presence, right? Like you can network through modern means without having to necessarily do stuff in person to get people to know you. And I think kind of doing both of those things can be very positive ultimately.
Thank you, Ryu. And then I wanted to speak on this one personally.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this as someone who, for the most part, has taken a fast track over the course of my SCA career. I've done a lot in a relatively short time. And coming from New York City, it's actually a little bit hard because we got bridges and tunnels for everything, tolls everywhere, and it's really a tremendous hindrance. But I want to echo this back to the advice that Kit gave earlier, which is that you find yourself a crew and you go out with your crew, okay? And there's a reason why franchise is a knightly virtue. You got to make them know, okay? You got to make people remember that you were somewhere and why. If you have a hard time going somewhere, if you have a hard time traveling somewhere with a group of people or anything to that effect, and you're going to go somewhere, you're like, I know for a fact I'm going to be at Balvar's Challenge. I know for a fact I'm going to be at 100 Minutes War. You let the people who are the movers and shakers in that area know, hey, I'm going to be here for this. Can I get a fight or two? Hey, I'm going to be here for the weekend. Me and my guys, we're going to be doing a thing. Is there anywhere, from an army level, do you know where you want us that day? Talk to the people who are in charge to make them aware of your presence, because those people have so many things going on that they're not going to be able to keep track of the fact that you were there. But it is my experience personally that if you let them know that you'll be there, they'll make time for you that they otherwise would not have known to have done. So the way that you get billing, the way that you get known, the way that you move up is by doing the thing with other people and then making other people aware that you guys were there together doing the thing.
And what Ryu says a lot of what I wanted to say, because so for my fighting career, I live in Nova Scotia. So the nearest barony to me for any kind of practice that's not my own is 10 hours. It's 12 hours to Quebec. So when I travel down, when I was coming up, I'd go down and I would bring onto the field, I'd have a cooler with water bottles. I had Boost, their liquid breakfast things. So you're able to keep yourself fed and hydrated on the field so you can get as much time in as you can. Because I'd get to go to G&E, I'd get to go to Beltane and things like that. And I'd try to be one of the last guys on the field because I wanted to fight anyone I could. And the only way I was able to do that is because my wife is amazing and reminded me to bring those kind of food things with you. Because you can't make an impression if you are not taking care of yourself. You need to be able to stay on the field, to give your best fight. Because if you can ask people for fights. If you're not in a condition to give your best fights, you're not doing yourself any favors. Trent and then Sterling.
So one thing I wanted to touch on is communication is everything. The reason why people can't needs to be expressed. I mean, there are people who say they can't do certain events because they can't afford it. Well, why can't you afford it? Is it because you don't have a place to stay? That can be arranged. I mean, we're a community and we're seriously in it for each other. I've housed so many fighters, at my place for our local melee practice. I honestly met my squire brother because I actually wound up picking up someone who didn't have a ride to Pinzik. And, but it's not just me. People have done things for me. I couldn't get my armor someplace and Master Pat drove it down. We are all in it together. So if it's because you can't afford or some kind of obstacle, make that obstacle known because we will help you. Also, if you can only make a couple events a year, then make sure that you're not doing the exact same events every year. Because if it's, you know, if all I could do was G&E and Coldwood every year, I'm not going to be seen. So it's like, all right, if I can only afford it to just get the time off, next year I'm going to do something down south. So start thinking strategically with that. And everything else everyone else said.
Sterling and then Kit said they wanted
So
check, on travel.
yeah, so all of us have been saying about how you want this, go for it. Kit has already put out, if this is something you really want, you got to go for it. I'm going to take all of what we're saying and flip it from a different point of view. So you're in a position where you can't travel. You don't have a crew. Well, let's try it this way. You got a local event that you're going to. Put the word out and say, hey, sir, so-and-so, can you come down? Hey, look, I'm going to be at this event. Can you come down? Put the invitation out to those other fighters that you want to cross swords with. And maybe if you can't get to them, maybe they can come to you. It's a two-way street that we are living here in this society. You're up in 10 hours. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, okay. We're going to leave you. Well, yeah, we'll come back to you later. But, you know, if you put out, hey, Sterling, look, I'm going to be at such and such event. Do you think you can bring some guys over to my event for a good tourney? Sure. Okay. I can probably do it. You got to do what you can do for you to make this your enjoyable and your success.
All right, Kit, you wanted to add something, and then Colin, and then we got the next question.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Colin's right. And the best times I've had, some of the best times I've had, was when I have showed up at a practice or an event that I have not known a single person at. And I was like, hey, you guys look cool. Can I fight with you? Where are you from? I'm 3rd Division. Oh, who are you? Oh, we're Bloodguard. I had a freaking blast. Like, that was a good time, you know. And there are times like I've stayed with Stacy and Antonio before, and then went to an event in their area, and those are the times where you meet people. Those are the times where you stand out, because then you're in those different circles and you're seeing different people, and not only are you fighting at different events, but you're seeing different people. And then those people will say to somebody else, hey, you know, Kit stayed with me and she went to this event. Oh yeah, I saw her. And all of a sudden they know who you are. And that is what's going to get you out and known and seen. So yes, and I'm sorry, I have a potty mouth. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Kit. Colin, and then next question.
Yeah, so I want to touch on something you said, and what Trentus and Kit talked about was really years ago. Like, it was way more common for people to just randomly crash places. Guys, doors are, you know, OTCs. You know, we're a group. Shiver group. We got lots of groups. You know, if you're an upcoming unbelt, or, you know, an OTC who wants, you know, who's working towards Shiv, guys, reach out. You know, I'm happy. You know, I've had people, you know, stay here all the time. I've had people ask to stay here. You know, it's how, you know, it's a great way to meet people. You know, I've met some of the greatest people just staying in random places, you know, because they had crash space for me for an event. The other point I wanted to talk about, Thorin, you mentioned your wife, and that you know, she lets, you know, because she's awesome, she lets, you know, participate and do what you can. You know, a lot of us are able to do what we're able to do because of our partners. You know, having a solid partner in your corner is huge. It's, you know, you know, if you're in a relationship and you're able to do a lot of this because of your partner. That's it. That's what I got.
A lot of this, especially when you get into higher up tournaments, it's a team game. If you don't have someone in your corner when you go in for an inspiration, it's not going to be a good time. All right. So our next question. What do OTCs consider more? Tournament wins, loss ratios, or technique when considering who should be an OTC? And Tiberius, I want you to take lead on this because you haven't talked yet.
The big thing isn't so much tournament wins or losses, it's how they fought during it. Honestly, you know, what a lot of us want to see is that when you're out there fighting, you're doing your absolute best, you look good while fighting. It's not some, you know, you walk up to someone and they one-shot you and walk away. You know, the whole thing is, you know, competence with your weapon forms, and that's, you know, you could be the greatest tournament fighter in existence, you could be the worst tournament fighter in existence. Really what we want to see is that when you go out there, you do your damnedest.
Olaf?
So, I mean, what do we look at, you know, more like tournament? I mean, not a tournament guy. I look for execution. Like, you know, we're back to, you know, what I said earlier. We're looking for killers. You know, when I'm looking for, you know, I'm looking at a lot of people in melee because once again, that's where I'm at. And I'm like, I'm not looking necessarily at the person who is out there and is the hero and, you know, is striding boldly out in front of the army. And I'm looking for Juliana, who is stuck in that gap, doing the job, working the spear, taking the shots, killing people. And I'm also looking at Kit, who is providing that stable weapons platform, keeping that spear alive, and, you know, making that, you know, making that those kills that Juliana's getting possible. And then I'm looking at Culann, who is the third part of that, who is the great weapon, who is firing those shots over the top, keeping those slots clean, and, you know, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. Do you do the job that you were designed to do? You know, everybody's got their role. Everybody's got their function. And, you know, and it's the same, you know, if I'm looking at somebody who is mainly a tournament fighter. Are they out there killing everybody all the time? Maybe not. But are they going out there, taking those skills that they have learned? Are they applying them? And then are they learning from it? You know, because when we come to contact in a melee, you know, we have the plan. And then the plan meets the enemy. And then we have a new plan because no plan survives first contact. So we go from there and we adapt, learn, reapply. You know, is that tournament fighter applying the knowledge that they have? Are they adapting from, you know, that first contact, and are they applying that new knowledge? And, you know, it's process. It's, you know, but are you taking that information? Are you taking those skills? Are you, you know, yeah. On this note, guys, I'm actually gonna tap out. So thanks
for
so
being
much.
here, Olaf.
Great. And the Irreverend signing off.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Griffin and then Ryu, and then we got to move on to the next question.
Just to echo something Uncle Olaf said about being a killer. My squire brother and I were about dead even at practices and fighting groups of individuals as to who we could and couldn't have successful fights against. I don't mean win. I mean successful fights. Making them work for it, adapting to what they're throwing, not getting hit with the same stuff over and over again. Those are signs of success, even if you lose every single bout. That being said, I got my OTC a little better than a year before my squire brother, because when it came to tournaments, that killer moment would happen. I would have success and win more bouts than my squire brother would at that time. And it's something to do with the moment that instinct kicks in where you let the void take over and all your training just acts and you stop thinking. And that to me is a bit of a threshold when you see the person just enact what they've learned in a tournament versus growing while they're training. That's a big difference in the killer mentality that I've seen.
That wonderful lizard brain that kicks in and suddenly you throw the shot and you're, what did you throw? I have no clue.
Exactly.
Ryu?
In the Oscar Wilde, brevity is the soul of wit. I'm going to say that I don't care how you do in tournaments, and that for the most part, whether or not we intend to in the East Kingdom, your performance in melee and how you kill for Kingdom is entirely determined into whether or not you get this award. Even if you don't make the team, when we're looking at unbelted champions, if you're the type of person that was considered for that team, if you're like, I want them on my team, that is probably an OTC. It's probably coming that direction. And the fact that you're not killing for yourself, but for Kingdom shows that you are a citizen of the Kingdom. You are devoted towards service, towards the Kingdom. It is a Kingdom level award. And that's where part of that like travel comes back. It's all a circle.
Yeah, there's one thing with us where the East is very much a more melee kingdom than other parts of the world. So that turns into a big part of it. Our next question. In recent years, do you feel that the bar for OTC prowess has gone up, down, or remained steady? And I'm going to put someone on the spot and say Brick, because you haven't talked in a bit.
It's a hard question, and I don't really know how I feel about that. I think, like I was saying earlier, it's easy to feel like the bar. It's easy to feel like your personal bar goes up in terms of judging a candidate, and on the other side of that, it's very easy to feel like the actual bar is going down, even though it may not be. And what I mean by that is if I am fighting someone who is, if I was fighting somebody who got, Lambert got his OTC at the same time as me, and if we were fighting then, we would be equal, right? But if I fought today what I was 2 years ago, I would feel that realistically that I was less skilled. So I think that it is easy for me to feel that the bar has gotten lower when in reality it may not have.
That makes sense, because every one of us, when we got our OTCs, was for different reasons. Again, it comes back to the creed of the order is excellence in one form or competence in multiple. So you never know what reasoning is behind it. Matthew, you had him saying, and then Culann.
So does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? Yes. This bar bounces all over. When you come in fresh to this order, you've got the 3 or 4 guys that you thought were at your level that you're ready to write in saying, well, if I'm good enough, they're good enough. And once you get past that point, you need to look at it from what do you want the order to be? What do you want it to look like? Don't let go of that notion of, well, this is what I was striving for, and this is how hard I was working, and this is how hard the people next to me were working. As we've said, it's a poll. It's a group of collective voices of people who are all saying, I want it to look like this. And sometimes that means that it looks like you have to try harder. It's also arbitrary for the candidate. If we've seen an exceptional amount of growth from somebody, then it's going to be easier to say, absolutely, we want to see them here with us. But the bar bounces around so much based on who the new people coming in are. If we get an influx of people who had maybe less traditional weapons forms or maybe fought a specific way, they're going to bring in another group of people because now they can speak for them. So that bar, that bar plays around and stagnates depending on who's coming into the order. And when we have discussions like these to say, hey guys, are we getting snooty about it? Are we ignoring people from this area, from this weapons form? It's a very fluid system. It's a collection of voices. So we essentially play jump rope with that bar.
That's a lot of good points there. Colin, you wanted to add to that?
No, Matt said everything I wanted to say. The bar goes up, it goes down, it stays the same. It really all depends.
Yeah. All right. Our next question. Now this one this is going to get some varying answers. How do you keep motivation in COVID land? With the lack of events and lack of practices, what are you guys doing to stay sharp if you can? Is it pel work, footwork, conditioning can only go so far? With a lot of our art is hitting at the other person with our preferred weapon. So what are you guys doing to keep sharp? We're gonna go with Trent and then Brick.
Honestly, I've done a lot of film. I did a lot of film studying. I have a couple of appointments that I have with Shiv Ryu, one of them, where basically he's going to help me break down film. The other stuff you do naturally. For me anyway, I have to do the cardio. I eat far too much to let it slip. Otherwise, I'll lose that edge. But there are times when, because of COVID, I can't really go out, but my computer's right here. So I just do what I can with what I have.
Brick?
So a couple of things there. So the first thing I'll say is I'm in a relatively unique situation. So I moved literally a week before the lockdown, and I didn't bring probably 80% of my belongings with me. So a lot of the stuff that I do within the SCA, arts and sciences, things like that, I don't have with me. So staying connected to the SCA has definitely been a little bit harder for me. In terms of fighting, Ozer actually was a saving grace a few months back. I didn't have my pel with me. His family lives 6 minutes away from where I live now, and he brought over his pel and gave it to me. So in terms of fighting, one of the things that I'm actively trying to do is Colin actually let me know a couple months before the lockdown hit that I started developing a bad habit where I was throwing flat offsides. So I've been taking the time to recondition myself into getting back into a cleaner muscle memory with those motions. So practicing little things like that I find very helpful. In terms of trying to keep in shape without fighting, I'm walking whenever I can. I'll do a 15-minute HIIT workout at home, just to keep up that intensity. And then doing research, whether it's watching videos or learning more about the historical periods that I'm more interested in. Just trying to do really whatever I can to kind of stay attached to the SCA, even though we're not able to fight right now.
That's fair, and it's hard to do. Tiberius and then Gryffyn.
So with COVID going on right now, there's a lot of people that are out of work. There are some people like me. I'm considered an essential worker as a cultural resource management archaeologist. So literally from the beginning of this on, I haven't had downtime at all because we do utility work, solar panels. Currently, I'm working up in Albany. They're expanding an armory up here, and I have to do the work for that. I don't get a lot of time, and I'm like, we're out in an open field, the sun beating down on us every day. We're fried by the end of it. And I still have the motivation to get outside and at least run at the end of the day, because if I find that if I don't, the little voice in the back of my skull starts telling me, that I'm being lazy and that I, once we start fighting again, I won't get anywhere. I'll have, all that work that I've done for the last 5 years will have gone to pot. And it's that voice in the back of your head that sits there and tells you, you need to do this, you need to do this. You got to listen to it. Even if it's just sitting down, deconstructing, watching some of your older fights, seeing where, your flaws are, and then trying to improve, hitting the pel for maybe 20 minutes a day, going out for a walk or going out for a run. It's the big thing is you have to, even in these times, you got, all the motivation in the world is gone right now. You got to find that little spark and just work it little by little and just keep going.
Thank you for that. Every little bit counts for what we do. Gryffyn, last bit, and then next question.
So this may be unpopular opinion time, but cutting yourself slack. I'm not motivated. I'm worried about my job, my kids, school, the world around us, everything. I'm not motivated, but I'm doing this. When this came up on the OTC discussion, I have been following the OTC discussion because that engagement with our community has been a big deal. There's going to come a day when I'm going to be too old to do this, but today isn't that day, and tomorrow's not looking good either. I'm going to be doing this for years to come, and I'm in it for the long game. And I can look at this room, and there's a couple people I don't know. By the way, I sent you friend requests. And there's a few people I've known for years and years and years, and I consider good friends. And remembering that it isn't just about going out there and being the best I'm not going to do it, best person out there at swinging a stick. But it's also about trying to be true to my motivation for why I played this game in the first place. And that's the people. And keeping those connections during COVID is going to be the most important thing for me, because I'm not going to be able to come crash at somebody's house for an event. Even after it's clear that may not be an easy thing to change back to. But being engaged with the community, talking to people, and finding your passion in under the new lens is still important. And it means I'm going to gain weight. It means I'm going to have less practice, but it means I'm still here and I'm not done yet.
That was awesome. That was awesome. All right, next question. We in the East have a great training mentality for melee, but not a great open culture for facilitating training as a kingdom. What can the members of this august order do to change the culture of training in the East? And I'm going to ask Juliana to take lead on this from a professional standpoint. And since you're mainly a spear fighter, so you have a bit of a different perspective than the rest of us.
You just asked him a question.
I know. I'm just trying to think of an answer. I'm actually talking to my husband for a second. So if anybody else wants to say something, you can go in front of me.
Sterling?
As far as us finding another way to find training as a kingdom, I mean, one of the things that I got to do last Sunday was actually have a spear class. Speaking of spear, there was no contact. We followed all the rules, but there was enough knowledge being brought about for that particular weapon form that allowed people to go, oh wait, now I'm really understanding a different aspect of spear as opposed to putting my armor on and going out there and going fight, and then you getting that fight tunnel vision. My understanding is we've got other classes going on all over the place that are doing similar things of taking a form or a melee or whatever and breaking it down. So it's happening and it's starting to grow and it's starting to get more momentum. I mean, one of the things is momentum wise is we're doing this class right now. It's It's all of us giving knowledge, and it's growing, it's getting momentum, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'd like to see it grow even bigger. As hell, I would love to see a virtual event where we're all together as an army going, hey, here's a whiteboard. These are the maneuvers we would have been doing. Voila.
That's a good point. That's actually something that I would like to see more of too. Ryu and Tiberius, I would like to hear your perspective from a teacher, and then Culann.
So I think that question goes a little bit beyond the scope of just what should be expected of this order. I think that members of this order will be participating in what that will eventually become the concept of the Eastern Doctrine. The Northern Army has done an excellent job over probably the past 20 years or so of being huge in terms of foundation of doctrine for melee, and bringing people up from the soldier to the sergeant to the commander to the general in steps. And that's something that we have worked on a good amount here in the South as well. I've run a practice here in the South once a month for the past 5 years that teaches strictly melee as we gear up for Pennsic every year, starting every February till literally the weeks before Pennsic. And now in recent time, as Warlord and then Tiernan as the Armored General, we have begun to conglomerate Northern and Southern styles into a unified Eastern style, so that we all have the same vernacular, so that we all have the same stratagem. So we understand the difference between a pivot and a wheel, so that we understand, what it means to move in an echelon or to dress a line. And that unified doctrine will help, everyone move forward from that progression, the soldier, sergeant, commander, general. Because the end goal for anyone in any position of leadership should be to be replaced by the people that you're teaching.
Thank you, Ryu. Juliana, do you want to come in again, and then we'll get Tiberius and Culann, and then go to the next question?
Yeah, sure. So I was going to bring up that we do a lot of stuff at the PAL practice. I know we probably bring that up a lot, but that's where they're taking, all the basic information and trying to teach everybody. And I have noticed that people are really starting to travel to that. So even if you have one person from that area go to that practice, then you can bring it back to your area and actually start teaching the rest of your group. And to be honest, that is one of the most welcoming communities I have ever seen. So even if you're a new person, I think one of the last practices we had, I think we might have had 3 or 4 new people, and it was spectacular. And honestly, there's no dumb questions. So if you're super new and you don't know the name of stuff, you just ask. No one cares there. But I know they actually have started putting it online too. So they've been taking videos of that, also trying to share what they've been teaching there.
That's awesome. Online is key in this world we're living in now. Tiberius?
So I guess I might suggest that maybe we don't do such a great job of training people. What I really think is that if we expect to have an army, then we have to start with individual tasks. And when people are proficient in their individual tasks, then we can have triads and maniple tasks. And once we have those, then we can have line and unit tasks. And then we can drive and move on from there. But the whole thing falls apart if somebody doesn't know how to put on their armor, hold their shield, put their feet in the correct spot, make their weapon go. And so what we have in the East is a tradition of success and tenacity that usually applies force over distance at the correct spot. And we have a critical mass of really skilled people. What I would propose as a possible solution would be have purposeful practices that are not just friends gathering together to beat on each other, that there's a time and a place for that, but sometimes that time and place needs to be this is how we move. This is how we move in a pair. This is how we move together. And Master Farrell, Master Padraig, Master Cianain, there's been a whole slew of people that have begun to codify this work for us and give resources so that those of us in the middle of nowhere can communicate in similar ways and train our folks and give our folks experiences with their individual small and collective tasks before we can operate as an effective army. So that's what I would say.
That's a good way of doing it. We can start looking at the making more videos and giving us more online to give us a universal verbiage for what we're doing. All right, just let me grab. So we have time for one more question. Just give me a second here to find it. All right, so our last question tonight, which is actually I'm going to work with. In lieu of feeling that people have been missed, do you feel as though some are approved because of popularity, and how is something like that discouraged in the order? I know, hitting you with the hard one at the end. Tiberius?
Their majesties are free to add to or detract from their orders at their pleasure. And but not detract is the wrong word because only the bod can take stuff away. But they're, despite or their majesties are free to act with our council, and they can choose to follow it or not. So, the tone of the question is nothing that I can control.
Culann?
If people are feeling people are missed, that's what the award recommendation is there for. If people are, we can't give their majesties advice if the name doesn't show up. So the best thing I can say is you see someone out there kicking ass, taking names. Sorry. Write them in. The order will weigh in and give their majesty's counsel, and their majesties will go from there. But that's really the best you can do, and it's why the system's there. We don't know, we're not all over the place, and we don't know everyone who's, so.
Yeah, it's hard. Then Rick and then Gryffyn.
I agree with what Colin said. I think the one thing I would like to add on the other side of people getting missed, the popularity side of things. So I don't think it's popularity so much as I think it is easier for people to get recognized if they have vocal advocates for them within the order. I just kind of think that's organically how things work. If you have somebody who's bringing you up in the Facebook group and people know you, I think it's easier to get your name known ultimately. Whereas if you don't have at least a buddy or a mentor that's in the order, it can definitely, I think, be more difficult to get the votes to really, it is ultimately at the discretion of their majesties, but I think it's easier to get more votes if you have somebody in the group advocating for you.
Gryffyn?
Yeah, actually, to echo that, having an advocate, but also it isn't just writing people in for an award. It's also coming up to the fighters, hey, if you fought my friend Bob the Viking, who's Bob the Viking? The guy over there in the red. Something as simple as that suddenly puts somebody on the radar to at least be, no, I haven't. It becomes what's next, and then it's where are they on their path, et cetera, almost comes out of the hands of the person who did the asking to begin with, and suddenly becomes part of the fighting community again, and it makes a greater popularity. I don't like the word. Personal knowledge of the people.
Easier to advertise and understand someone when you've been introduced.
Yeah, even if it's that one over there, even if it's not a direct introduction, it's still name to face. I suck with names, but I'm great with recognizing faces.
It also doesn't help that most of us wear, armor and helmets, and we look very different outside of our kits.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, not you, Trent, but still. Tiberius, and then Ryu, and then we're gonna have to close it out, folks.
the big thing about orders like ours is it's a poll. So if you think that someone's not getting recognition, talk to people, write them in. They might not be getting around, but the big thing is someone else may have recognized that as well and hasn't said anything yet. We have the ability to talk with each other, and especially we have the Facebook group, we have regular groups, we talk. How about this guy? How about this guy? If you think honestly that someone is being overlooked, talk about it. Write them in, talk to someone who is an OTC. We'll talk to it, ask someone, hey, could you post about this guy and see what, everyone thinks about it? Well, what needs to be done? Yeah, franchise is a big thing and an advocate is great, but if you honestly feel that someone is not getting recognition, do something about it. And make sure when you do, you really need a photo of them in armor and out of armor, because I'm horrific with names. But you point out someone and go, oh yeah, he's in, this helmet, he wears this, this is what he looks like out of armor. I'm better with the visual aspects. We do that, and suddenly, that person starts getting looked at.
All right, Ryu, and then Trent's going to be our last comment, and then we're going to close out the show.
So I wanna touch on the concept of the no. I am of the opinion that if you vote no on a candidate, you have signed on for a responsibility. You have stated that you are going to do what is within your power to turn that no into a minimum of an abstain, if not a yes. You have accepted that there is a responsibility, because now there is proof and acknowledgement that you see that there is someone who is in need in their mission to achieve the goal that they have. And I'm a firm believer of the idea that if you want to go fast, you go alone, and if you want to go far, you go together. And we are in order. So we are beholden to one another to promote the order by ensuring that there are those to replace us so that we go as far as possible.
Many stripes, one tiger. We got to do it together. All right, Trent, final words.
I just want to touch off of what Tiberius said. If you notice someone, speak out. But if you're not an OTC and you want to be on that path, there's nothing wrong with you coming up and say, hey, what do I need to do to get to that next level? So we're approachable, and that's important for them to know.
Yeah, we can't help if we don't know there's an issue. So come up to us. Find someone else to come up to us. If you're one of the more shy ones that has a hard time talking to someone, come up to us. There's some of us don't like talking to people. A lot of us coming up, we had someone to advocate for us. Other ones, we're really loud and we can be loud for you. So, and with that, this is the end of the show. Please forgive if we missed your questions. If there's interest, I'm going to be looking at setting up a second one of these probably in a couple of weeks. If you have more questions, send us messages if you have us on Facebook. And everyone have a good night. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys as soon as we can.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks.